A Happy Cloud audio tool.
A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Ow! No, not an owl. The first one you did up here was much better.
Streets of Laredo.
It's that time again for the Further Adventures of Rune, Return of the Megans, brought to you by Happy Cloud Media and Chrome Toothpaste. Chapter 2, Castle Cybil. As dawn broke over the horizon, Castle Cybil, home to Rune the Gray, awoke in a very foul mood. Its proud, sand-colored masonry turned dark as a storm-tossed sky. Miffed and miserable, and convinced nobody loved it for what it really was deep down inside, the castle was alerted to the presence of a milkman outside its walls. With great malevolence and imagined indignation, Castle Cybil rapidly raised and lowered its drawbridge. And hammered the poor Cybil servant into the soft earth like a white-clad, lactose-bearing tent peg. Yet this did nothing to improve the castle's mood. It started fleens ago. To ease his expenses, Rune rented out the entire top floor of the East Wing. The renting family, children, parents, both sets of grandparents, plus 2 visiting uncles, were all tossed clear off of the East Tower. At the time, he'd believed the culprit to be the ghost of the castle's previous inhabitants. As it turns out, there were no ghosts, but that was of little comfort to the mourning extended family. The castle, bequeathed to him, suffered from schizophrenia and severe depression. Its rich brown stones went gray and foreboding without a scintilla, chinchilla, or schmooze breath of advanced warning. Just all of a sudden, chairs would whiz about, carpets would be yanked viciously, chandeliers swung, hard-to-reach bulbs exploded. All of the smoke alarms would go off at once. But ask it what's wrong, and you get the otherworldly moaning, "Nothing." Rune sent one of his innumerable and expensive servants to apologize and excavate the poor milkman. He'd have to be paid off, of course. Likely an operation would be necessary to restore him to his previous height. Rune sighed. Money, money, money. Making a valiant attempt to eat his breakfast and read his morning paper without further raising his home's ire, Rune instead endured a list of desperately needed improvements orated by his butler, Greeves. Greeves held advanced degrees in both real estate and butlering, so Rune was obliged to listen to the man's counsel, even though the toast was burnt and the eggs were really runny. Footnote. Like all of Rune's countless servants, Greeves had come with the property. Castle Cybil had been previously owned by a renowned layabout of lesser nobility by the name of Rooster. Greeves and Rooster had together many an adventure, but like a hot water bottle pierced in jest by a needle on a stick, their partnership was punctured by the end of the Second Cornelian War and Rooster's inexcusable support of a lamppost for president. There was a distinct possibility that Rooster still dwelled within Castle Cybil, somewhere. He had no head for directions and likely never found his way out. That was Greaves' story, anyway. There's still the matter of these sconces in the northern hallway, my lord. What about them? Well, they've fallen off. I've had the staff store them in one of the unused observatories until a proper sconcer can be found. Didn't I hire a sconcer last fleen? You did, sir. What happened to him? We believe that the castle walled him up within itself. Mrs. Mirkwood insists she can hear plaintive cries of, "Hello," and "I'm in here, somebody," somewhat near the owlery. I have an owlery? Yes, sir. All pre-Cornelian War castles possess an owlery. There any owls in it? Wouldn't be much of an owlery without owls, my lord. So we have 2 owls, my lord. Rudy Schwartzmolder and Snowy. Snowy? Yes, my lord. Weird name for an owl. You'll get no argument from me, sir. What else? We've encountered a problem with regards to the relocation of the first floor chandeliers, which is impossible. Turns out they're load-bearing chandeliers. Rune opened his mouth to say something, thought better of it, and wearily waved for Greeves to continue. The observation tower has developed altitude moss. Makes the parapets slippery. Could leave you open to litigation should anyone slip and fall to their deaths. Rope it off until we can demoss it. Don't we have a demosser on staff? We did, sir, but he came down with a terrible affliction. Mold lung, fungal pancreas. Sent a ham to his widow. He's not quite dead yet, sir, though he is allergic to ham. 2 squabs in. What else? Does Sir remember the water closet in this northeastern wing? Vaguely. Do you recall where it is exactly? Not offhand, no. Pity. We shall continue to look for it. Very good. If you find it before I return, I'll make it a point to use it more. Shall Sir be, questing again? Yes, sadly, dear Greeves. Castles don't pay for their own depression medications. No, sir, indeed. Not in this economy, anyway. With a sigh born of all the world's burdens, Rune speared a bit of breakfast on his fork and delivered it to his maw, and then instantly regretted it. Blur, damn! What's wrong with this? I want to say food? It was now apparently Greeves' turn to sigh. It's a long story, sir. I expected nothing less. It would seem that Billings, your chef, has been buying goods from a man known for disreputable produce. Sure. Stolen, my lord. Cook is in love with the miscreant's spouse, and she, sir, is in turn in love with another member of your staff, also working in the kitchen. And who's he then? Your toastmaster. Explains the charred toast. Okay, fire 'em all. Sir, the cook, the thief, his wife, her lover, can 'em. Very good, sir. Chapter 3. The Gax. Sneezes Louise's boss! You've barely unpacked and now you're going right back out? That was the Gax, Rune's valet and unofficial biographer. During the Second Cornelian War, the Gax had been Dusty St. Clair's Batman and saw to all the pilot's needs. And at night, I'd fight crime, said the Gax. Then Rune would remind him that he was the other kind of Batman. The Gax, like all other Gaxes, was from the great and inaccessible island of Gax, out past the great Northern Sea. The island was so named because it had never been successfully visited by anyone from the outside world. A dense canopy of razor trees prevented any airship from landing. The reef of Sutherland surrounds the entirety of the landmass, and even if the reef could somehow be breached by swimmers, the great and inaccessible island of Gax also attracted some of the most vicious sea beasts to ever troll the tides. And speaking of the tides, Gax Island was beset by tsunamis twice a fleen. It is estimated that 180 zentillion sailors have died trying to access the inaccessible isle, but these numbers are often inflated during election years. So imagine Dusty's surprise when the Gax showed up in his barracks, eager to serve. In all of history, only 4 Gaxes have ever integrated in Trogdinian society. The Gax, currently and carefully folding Rune's questing unmentionables, was the second. His presence in Castle Cybil could be explained simply. Following the war, Dusty got married. Rune did not. While neither of them had any further use for a Batman, Rune's constant questing did open him up to the idea of an assistant. As the Gax had literary dreams, he also offered up the notion of himself as secretary to take down any musings Rune might think would make for interesting memoirs. Memoirs are for rich clots, said Rune. It's a needlepoint for nitwits. People love needlepoint, boss! A note about the Gax. Like all Gaxes, the Gax stood roughly 3 feet tall on a pair of stumpy, powerful legs, on feet equipped with thumbs, operating also as hands. The entirety of its body was hair. Like all Gaxes, it looked like a 3-foot diametrical, enormously fluffy coconut on legs. Its only other features beyond its massive hair were 2 enormous brown eyes and its wide, vast, terrifyingly sharp tooth-lined mouth, bookended by tusks at either corner. A wide and terrible mouth that rarely stopped talking. What's this, your dress tunic? He held up a bolt of muddy cloth. Rune shrugged. Laundry, said the Gax, tossing the cloak into a growing and stinking pile. So my question is, when do you take time for yourself? The Gax's voice was that of a tumble-down cabbie vomiting down a drain pipe. Let me Gax you a question, boss. With that, the Gax ignored him, pointed at him with a single claw. When's your Rune time? When I'm dead, said Rune. He was searching for his favorite sword. The last time he saw it, it was under the bed. Can't take that attitude, boss. It's unhealthy. He held up a weapon-shaped object. What's this? Oh, that's Chekhov's gun. Stick it above the fireplace and forget about it. Dutifully, the Gax did so. My point, boss, is you just got back from the Blasted Lands, fighting all manner of Harryhausens, the Cyclops, the Id Creature, Mel. They both shuddered, remembering Mel. Anyways, you're not as young as you used to be. I'm not as young as I was this morning. What's your point? We need the money. But boss, Gax, said Rune, still without his sword. It's Dusty, and it's Scarlett. That's what I'm saying. Of all people, they should be sensitive to your needs. They're my oldest, he didn't like the word he was supposed to use. Compatriots. They're reckless. Dusty's a clot, but Scarlett's always been level-headed. Boss, she's a Primazon. Where she's from, they execute any male that can even find their island on a map. Dignity be blurred. Rune crawled under the bed. He shoved aside boxes and dust buddies the size of said boxes. He considered using the gax as a cleaning fluff, but then remembered his teeth. Are you saying she can't be trusted? I'm not saying that. It's because she married Dusty. He still needed me! Covered in schmutz, but still swordless, Rune emerged from beneath the bed. Where's my sword? Which one? Nose grinder. The gax rummaged through a chest. Here's the singing sword. Here's the screaming hammer. The yodeling codpiece. It wouldn't be in there anyway. The gax emerged. He shut the lid. Well, heck. Language. Blurging snee on an F. Better. Hey, is this the horn of Gonad? Yeah. Don't blow it. We'll be up to our ears in dime a dozen rangers. And we don't have the seating. Gotcha, boss. Chapter 4. The Weird Sisters. For his service in the Second Cornelian War, Rune was granted the entire land of the Vernica, from the Swarthing River to the eastern entrance of the Great Burny Woods. A gentle path skirting the entrance leads to an inlet of Swarthing, a still and crystal lake that no one had gotten around to naming, so Rune called it Phil. Upon the shore of Phil Lake, Rune had built a gazebo, from which he could watch the lake, and the fish leap to catch the late evening mosquitoes, and the birds swooping to eat the fish, and the flying mandrills out to eat the birds. All the calming things one is supposed to do when one isn't out and about rampaging, pillaging, tomb raiding, and mercenary. And that is where he took his, to spitefully quote the gax, Rune time. The gazebo also made for a good war room. A Happy Cloud audio tune. Crossed paths. Rune particularly liked that he was removed from the tantrums of his castle. For all her faults, Castle Cybil couldn't move. Not that he was aware of, anyway. There was only one challenge on the path to the gazebo on Phil, and that was the 3 weird sisters who made their camp on the outskirts of the wood. They never failed to appear, cackling over a great cauldron, spinning some semi-accurate prophecies. The crones, Clotho, Lachesis, and Phyllis. Atropos had eloped with her boyfriend, George Glass, despite the latter being imaginary. Today, they were spooling threads and snipping at intervals.
Bob Gordon, Hoxford, Thessaly,
said Clotho, holding a spool while Lachesis drew the thread.
Hit by a bus after the St. Vitus Day dance.
She snipped the thread. Rune's attempt to pass them while they busied themselves was unsuccessful.
By the prickling of my thumbs,
said Clotho. Something fuzzy this way comes, finished Lachesis. He who's always gray and is even grayer now with age. You got no room to talk.
Touché.
He attempted to keep walking. Lachesis called after him. Don't you want to know how your new journey will turn out? Rune stopped. He did not turn. He did sigh. It's not a journey, it's a campaign.
'Tis a hero's journey.
Isn't. Been on those. Know what they look like. Besides, as you said, I'm older now.
Are you leaving your familiar home?
Rune grit his teeth. Yes. Have you already once refused the call to adventure? Asked Lachesis. Rune did not want to answer. Sorta.
And today you will be meeting a mentor and or quest giver.
That was Phyllis again. Slowly, Rune turned, anger bubbling. He hated to admit when they were right. The war patron should be there, yeah.
Hero's journey.
Or, damn it. But fear not.
For no harm can come to you, so long as the Great Burny Woods stands vigilant outside your door.
That was Phyllis. Okay. So long as the woods don't go anywhere, I'm safe.
Correct,
they said together. Their harmony was off, and at least one of them had been eating onions.
Until the Great Burny Wood F's off!
Theo, said Rune, literally turning on his tail and resuming his way on the path.
Wait!
Shouted Clotho to his retreating back.
Don't you want to know how Derek Mowberry ends his life?
Lachesis picked up the call. Hint! It involves a cliffside and mead.
And roller skates!
He didn't turn back. Chapter 5. The Old Same Place. 2 familiar faces greeted Rune at the gazebo on Phil. 3, if you counted the gax who'd somehow beaten him there, with snacks. In addition, there were 2 faces unfamiliar to him, both humanish. From one face hung a body dressed in black, with a black shaving basin hat, black mustache upon his lip, black glasses across his eyes, black cigarello between his teeth. which were white. The second was short, almost as short as Rune, and wore an expression of perpetual misery. This was an expert in stand-up tragedy, a study in gray, sackcloth robes, hair, skin, demeanor, all the same shade of gray. In the Sherman-Williams chip chart, it was granite mixed with 3 parts depression, as opposed to Rune's own natural color, which was a more pleasant, misty morning. "Morning, Chief," called Dusty in his most irritatingly pleasant voice. "Coffee, boss?" offered the Gax. He shook his head, but the Gax poured anyway. Rune shot Scarlett a glance, which she correctly interpreted as, "Get on with it," and on with it she got. "Rune, these are our benefactors, Monsignor Don Gandalf, Guido Novello Morricone, High Priest of the High Chapel of the High Churches of Blurg and Snee. Yeah, we're thinking about, changing the name," said Monsignor Don Gandalf, Guido Novello Morricone, the tall one in black. "And, you can call me Father Don, it'll take a less time." "Snee and Blurg," said Rune. It really wasn't a question, but Father Don treated it like one anyway. He said, it's no secret that the two are pretty close in the, what I call ideology. The whole holy books say pretty much the same thing, only the ad infinitum sounds like it was written on a bus. One passage goes on and on about the proper way to ensure spiritual health. The other just says, don't eat lead. It's the little differences. Scarlett indicated the grumpy, lumpy, bumpy creature sulking on a stump. "And this is Brother Theodore Amanda Gottlieb, prelate of the Malevolent Brotherhood of Ob." "Ob," said Rune. "Oh, yay." But the monk paid no mind. It opened its wide mouth and croaked at him. "Also known as Brother Theodore the Unpleasant, keeper of the 99 knots, all of which is summed up in these traveling ad nauseam." He held up a moldy book, bound with chains and a heavy lock, its edges green and flaking, bits of it sprinkled onto his bare toes, protruding rudely through his holy and wholly uncomfortable sandals. "Dusty, Scarlett, my dear friends," Rune said, hastily ignoring the 2 newcomers, "why have you brought a pair of priests to my until now peacefully priestless presence? What did I do to deserve this?" "Hey, I get your reticence, what have Blurg or Snee or," he jerked a thumb at Brother Theodore, "these guy ever done for you, right?" Rune's ears twitched in irritation. He sensed a trap. "Boy, oh boy, do I ever get it, but we got a heck of a deal for you. Riches." "All right, I'm listening." "Okay, so here's this wizard, right? Necromancer, probably a shoplifter too. He's a real nasty guy, and he's making all these plans, doing all this kind of pre-evil, right? Now, all the things you have to do before you can get to the real evil, like laundry, making sure the pets are fed, stopping the mail. Anyway, he's a holed up in the citadel of a Balls Deep. Balls Deep? Balls Deep. "Saint Sain's petting zoo," Dusty exclaimed. "Balls Deep is one of the most easily defended fortresses in all of Gilver." Rune nodded, gesturing to Dusty in a manner that said, "See? Even this idiot gets it." Father Don shrugged. "Look, you got 3 gods on your side. How tough it could be? First of all, it's an Asternath. It's on the edge of the Blasted Lands, so it's about as satisfying a journey as snail pornography. Second, it's carved directly into a cliff face in the God-Teeth Mountains, and the only way in and out is through the forward bridge. The exit tunnels lead to the Carthage Labyrinth, the correct passage to freedom known only to the Tunnel Watch. Warrior priests were also known as living maps. "Oh, yeah, sure, said Father Don, blowing a smoke ring. "We know all about that." He shot a guilty glance to Brother Theodore, who was not paying attention and was instead muttering curses at a shrew burrowing into a hole beneath the steps. "If Ob forgives you, he is a fool," said Brother Theodore, presumably to the shrew. Rune wasn't done. "The forward bridge is only wide enough to accommodate 3 humanish across, and only if those 3 men haven't eaten in a while. Otherwise, it's closer to 2. Plus, it's suspended above a 500-foot chasm. Well, yeah, sure, there's some drawbacks. It's 200 feet from one end of the bridge to the other, and the entry gates are another 200 clicks high. The doors themselves are 8 feet thick, and the doorbell has been broken for at least a century. And if any one of us can get in, it's you, Chief. I have no doubt." Rune looked at Scarlett. She shrugged. Rune shook his head. "You married him." She gave Dusty's paw a squeeze. "The mission is doomed. When I die, I want you to replace my head with a bunch of broccoli." "Broccoli," said Rune. "It's the artist in me," said Brother Theodore. And he really said that too. Yeah, don't get him started. Again, Rune sighed. He shoved the Gax over and sat down on his favorite spot on his favorite bench. The Gax handed him a cup of coffee. Rune sipped at it, watched a gull swoop down and swallow a frog that had been flipping it off all morning. "Anyway, say we can cross the bridge and breach the walls and leave a message, whatever. Balls Deep has an army of 3,000 warriors. I'm counting 6 of us, assuming you 2 holy guys are coming along. Of course we're coming. You need the spiritual guidance the whole way. I never have before." "Okay, well, we're the ones paying." Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, that's where you come in. The raising the army part, we can get our parishioners to do all kinds of crazy things. You ever see the sit-stand kneel routine that we got them going? It's hilarious. Someday I want to see if they'll all balance balls on the noses. Anyway, getting them to fight a war, though, that's a little trickier than getting their pocket money every weekend. It's he's asking a lot. Rune finished his coffee. This is a pretty big mission for the church. You have enough dosh to raise a big enough army to do this? Well, said Father Dawn, who didn't finish. No, said Brother Theodore, quick to dampen any and all spirits. But their benefactor does, said Scarlet. Lord Morphin, said Dusty unhelpfully. Please, sire, Mr. the Gray, think of the poor oppressed people in the Balls Deep, suffering from the wrath of this, necromancer, whatever. What's his name? Whose name? The Necromancer, the guy we have to stop from doing all the evil. Oh, I forget. Maybe Al something? I'm out. Grimfoil, said Brother Theodore, his voice like a drain unclogging. Grimfoil, said Rune in his second exclamation of the morning. Okay, I'm back in. Grimfoil. I hate that son of a blurg. Rune and Grimfoil had never met officially, but Grimfoil had been part of the Zeit conspiracy, a cadre of wizards and alchemists that had tried to take down the entire planet not once, but twice. Both Cornelian Wars were casually referred to as the Wizard Wars, as well as the Merlin Troubles and the Gandalf Catastrophes. Trogdine was still trying to recover from the second, though it had ended many fleens ago. Rune, Dusty, Scarlet, the Gax, they'd all fought in the resistance against the wizardy forces that were also running a shadow government, influencing the young and malleable Prince Cygnus. In the end, once the prince was killed and President for Life Lassiter Pleiades was installed, wizards of all stripes, from Gandalfs to Merlins to Pens and Tellers, were required to register with the newly formed Sorcerers Guild, or else surrender the right to power. Neighboring city-states throughout Gilver were required to sign the Lassiter Compacts and monitor their inter-border magical activity. The unionized wizards were put to work in alchemy labs to produce new benefits for the citizens around the world. The Illuminati, for example, previously a secret society of magicians seeking to rule through subterfuge, were now the primary purveyors of Nicola juice for every major metropolitan area in Gilver and Thessaly, turning base metals into luxurious light, soft, but still easy to read by. Grimfoil was among those who had turned tail and fled into the Blasted Lands, taking their foul secrets with them. Throughout the war, Rune had heard the name connected with massacres, miseries, tax increases, newspaper cancellations, carriage recalls. Grimfoil the ruthless, Grimfoil the unimpressive and untidy. To take down a wizard war criminal would bring Rune's soul great peace, but if you suggested that to his face, he'd hit you. Alright, Padres 1 and 2, give me a day or so to think it over. There's a bonus in it if you sign right now. How big a bonus? There you have it, friends. That's the end of Chunk the Second. Will Rune join the party or tell them all to blurg off? What would you do? Be sure to park your carcass next to your Palantir for the next baffling installment of The Further Adventures of Rune.